to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the audio adventure No Place, written by James Gloss. Now, back in 2016, David Tennant finally returned to play the Doctor in a series of Big Finish audio dramas, appearing in Volume 1 with 3 stories featuring him and Catherine Tate returning to her role as Donna Noble. David Tennant would then continue on his career with Big Finish, basically continuing on the adventures of the 10th Doctor. Series Volume 1 was the Donna Noble, Volume 2 was Rose Tyler, and Volume 3 was then back with Donna Noble. David Tennant would have a lot of this is from 2019, so this was like 3 or 4 years ago. Very cool. Now, this story is notable for the fact that not only does it include Jacqueline King, who plays Sylvia Noble, Donna Noble's mother, who had appeared in a handful of audio dramas prior to this, most notably in the 10th Doctor Chronicles, where they had a David Tennant impersonator play the 10th Doctor. But this is actually the first time in Big Finish Productions where they had Bernard Crimmins reprise his role as Wilfred Mott from the TV series and into audio form. As we've tackled before in the 8th Doctor Adventures, Bernard Crimmins has appeared in Big Finish before, but this is the first time he played Wilfred, and he was obviously one of my favourite characters in the series, and that's why I kind of picked this up. You can buy them in volumes. You can buy Volume 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3, or you can buy them separately, and I like that. I like how we get the options of picking it. I believe in Volume 3 is this story. There's another one called The Creeping Death, which I know nothing about. I believe it's a historical adventure about a famous mist over New York that killed a bunch of people. And then there's another one which features the Jadoon. But this is the only one I've got, and I got it mainly because of the cast. And this was actually my introduction to David Tennant's 10th Doctor in the Big Finish audio drama range. So that is incredibly cool. Now, before I actually get into the actual narratives and stuff like that, a lot of people, when it comes to these Big Finish audio dramas, they always ask me the same questions. And that is to do with the immersion. Does David Tennant and David Tennant and Catherine Tate, capture that essence? Can you listen to this and picture yourself watching Series 4 all over again? I am happy to announce that David Tennant and Catherine Tate, reprising their roles as the 10th Doctor and Donna Noble, are fantastic, and they haven't lost an ounce of energy. I mean, this might be because David Tennant, these two actors, work so much together. As I've stated before, in other vlogs, they have worked together on numerous projects, like the Catherine Tate Show and the Shakespeare play, Much to Do About Nothing. So they haven't lost their energy. It is really, like addictive, their chemistry in this audio drama. And just by listening to this, just by hearing them interacting in this story, it makes me want to pick up more stories with them. And also as well, the immersion also helps in this story with the fact that we have not one but 2 returning characters from Series 4 reprising their roles in here. And they actually get a lot more to do in this story. They basically become the Doctor's 2nd and 3rd companions, which is very nice. James Gloss is a writer mostly known for, later on he did, earlier on, depending on your point of view, he did the Time Lord Victorious. He was basically the showrunner of that. So he's pretty a big name in Doctor Who canon. I'm sure we've talked about James Gloss before. I actually can't remember. That's pretty bad. But anyway, now before I actually get into the story, I know I keep saying that. There's one thing I want to point out with this story, and I want to point it out here because I can't see anybody mentioning it. In fact, by the time I'm recording this, it might still be on the wiki. I say still because I was the one who edited it on the TARDIS wiki. If you see, during series 4, there was a unproduced story, a story that was going to be in series 4, but Russell T Davies took it off because it was a comedy episode, and he felt that in terms of humour was very similar to Unicorn and the Wasp. And this story, written by Tom the guy who wrote Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen, he was going to return for series 4. And he wrote a story in which it was going to be a crossover episode with Most Haunted. That is not even a joke. And that essentially, it was basically our TARDIS team basically in an episode of Most Haunted, essentially. But in the unproduced story, it was actually going to be the cast of Most Haunted, which is that's just so weird. It's so bizarre that that's a thing. But I bring that up here because I feel like that might have been an inspiration for this story. This story is extremely similar. It's strange. I would even consider this maybe even an adaptation. It's basically the same idea. The Doctor and Donna and in this version at least Sylvia and Wilfred are taking part in this investigation television show where they're working with a casting crew as they investigate this house and figure out what all the supernatural things, if there is supernatural things, and what it is and how to stop it and all that. It's really strange. I mainly just wanted to talk about Steve bring up, I believe it was called Century House, the unproduced crossover with Most Haunted. That was going to be a thing. That is utterly mental. It's absolutely mental. So, yeah, I don't know if that had anything to do with Most No Place or whether it was just purely coincidence. But, yeah, that's just something that I wanted to talk about. So, onto the episode itself. The story, like I said, the story is very simple. Like, as soon as I tell you, like, the basic premise, that's mainly it throughout the adventure. In fact, we start off with our crew already basically a part of this. We don't have the Doctor basically getting into the narrative or coming out the TARDIS. The TARDIS crew are essentially already in the narrative. So I don't think the TARDIS doesn't appear at all in this adventure. Essentially, there's this television program. It's called Haunted Makeover, where essentially these group of supernatural investigators, they investigate the supposed hauntings of a house. These crew being Justin and Jess, which for an audio drama, to have your two supporting characters with very similar names was a really dumb idea in my opinion. But they're played by Joel Frey and Peter Symes, and they do a pretty decent job, but I'll get on to that in a little bit. And they're basically, what the premise of the show is that they investigate people's houses as they're moving into them, as they're about to refurbish it. So it's basically Most Haunted / DIY, and that is just such a bizarre concept for a Doctor Who story. And essentially, in the premise of this story, Donna's mother anyway has bought this house, mentioned that something has there's horror elements to it, and so our team are basically all investigated. But here they seem like they're all working together. But this leads into some really humorous stories, story elements, I should say, as to try basically to keep the disguise so that they don't get suspicious, or maybe as just to amuse themselves. Donna and the Doctor pretend to be a happily married couple, and this has some of the greatest humour in this story. When I bought this story, here the concept of it, the Doctor and Donna are basically in a supernatural investigation show. I was kind of hoping that I would have picked up a horror story. I've said this multiple times in the vlog series, but I like Doctor Who in any shapes or form, but I specifically like the scary ones, the horror ones that are inspired by like ghosts and horror films and stuff like that. So I was kind of hoping for something like that here. We do got those elements, but the main focus in here is the humour, as throughout the story, the first half of the story, they ask the questions to Donna about all these mundane. It's like these walls, these wallpapers is what makes a house. Now tell me everything that you would like in your reservation of the house. Donna's like joking about as the Doctor gets involved. I especially love the when they start making those, because they have like a kind of like surreal, like a fantasy version of what a married couple should look like in their heads. So they're kind of acting what they think is a married couple, and David Tennant doing this is hilarious, especially like they're being interviewed and they're trying to think of like cute little names for one another, and it got to a point where the Doctor just kind of like, he doesn't know what to think or to act anymore. He's so in such an awkward position for himself that he just boop to Donna, and Donna's just like, did you just boop me? Yes, I think I did. It's such a surreal element. But what I think what's really great about this is that despite it being very humorous and a very not dramatic scene, David Tennant and Catherine Tate play these characters so well that despite them being in a situation where they are essentially not, they're playing their characters pretending to be other kinds of people, they still feel like their characters, and that is just got to be commendable. And we get a lot of great. What's really great about this story is the pacing, as the story constantly switches who's with who's in the characters, and apart from really two side characters, there's only like a handful of characters. You've got our main four on the DVD cover. This there. Oh, I forgot to mention, I have the CD cover here. I've flipped it out, so it's got the 2007 logo, sorry. But I don't have the DVD cover because I didn't print it out in time, so that's why I've done a DVD cover. But anyway, apart from the full main cast and the two extras, there's no other cast members. And this means that this story does kind of have a claustrophobic, that kind of that most haunted, like a handful of people in one location as they're investigating, and you get people splitting up in twos, and to have each character interact with each another is just always brilliant to see, especially with these casts. And it means that we also get elements which we don't see in this TV series, because this time Sylvia becomes an important character, and we get to see her because in the TV series she's always second character at best. like she appears as a emotional hook for Donna. Not that she doesn't have a character, but she never has a real role in the story. But here she does, and we get her to have interactions with the Doctor and interactions with Donna in a way where they're both investigating, and with Wilfred, and how and we get to see her point of view, how she hates the Doctor for allowing Donna to get into these situations. She knows about the Doctor and these horrible situations. She kind of struggles to come to terms with it. And she just really just wants a mundane life. The building she has bought is actually a place that she used to take Donna back when she was a little girl. Piano lessons, where she used to take piano lessons, which Donna states is like she just absolutely hated. And so, unlike other characters in the story, Sylvia has this kind of appreciation for the setting, and actually, unlike any of the other characters who are, they put on the show that they are interested in the house, but they're mainly interested in the supernatural element. But Sylvia is the only one who really has an interest in the actual building, which means that she has a great different viewpoint from the rest of the characters. Wilfred, Donna's grandfather, it's Bernard Crimmins. You just have to have... this story didn't have to make him do anything. He could just have been in the story and it would suit him fine. But luckily this story does give him plenty to do, as he's basically the shoulder to cry on, which doesn't mean that he gets much to do in terms of his contributions to the narrative and him having an emotional stakes in the narrative. When characters are upset and or they need like a support or something, Wilfred's usually the one to go to. And I just like how he just gets along with everyone he just meets everybody and just gets along with them, and he always has this kind of cheeky this cheekiness about him. I can't describe it that well. I just adore scenes where he's working with the 10th Doctor. That duo, like, that's amazing. And in fact, this story really, really, really makes me wish that Sylvia and Wilfred would be able to become mainstay in the main series. Like, they should have joined the TARDIS crew, in my opinion. It was such a shame. Like, I don't think Russell T Davies knew what he had there. Now, the other two characters, Jason and Jess, they're kind of dull, if I'm going to be honest. The actors do a great job, and we get this idea that Justin, he is I can't remember the term, like, he doesn't believe in ghosts, and he actually has stated that multiple times that throughout this program that he does, he's gone to people's houses trying to look for any supernatural stuff to try and prove himself wrong. But every time he does so, he tries to find a reasonable and a scientific explanation of what happened, and he does find them. He goes into one point where he's like, we went to a house where this couple thought that the electrics keep going out because there was a ghost, but he called a electrical engineer, and it turned out there was just a paperclip in the circuits or something like that. And that is incredibly strange. But there is actually weird things going on here. They find that there are skeletons of these creatures that look like dogs. It's described, but looking at the cover and you see a skull, it doesn't look like a dog, but that's more of the design of the cover than the actual story. And in the back garden, they actually discover a tunnel. And when characters go near the tunnel, go inside the tunnel, they start feeling incredibly sad. Two investigators actually start crying and Justin is basically, it's just mass hysteria, and Donna tries to help them, but only to discover that she can actually hear strange voices, strange sounds, and it seems, and she gets this feeling that she's in World War II, and she's surrounded by this suffering and chaos, and I love how basically she kind of gets at the action for that scene, and Wilfred, he just tugs along with the Doctor, because as he's described it, he knows this feeling. He sensed that basically this place gives this feeling of warfare, of the feeling that you wake up and on that day you're gonna have to fight for your life. And Wilfred's just like, I'm used to it. I remember feeling like this all the time during the war. It sounds like bloody Uncle Albert from Only Fools and Horses, but you get my gist. He's basically Uncle Albert from Only Fools and Horses, and he basically teams up the Doctor, and the Doctor, who's also fought in many battles, can also understand that feeling, and then they go into investigate and learn that there is some alien things in this pit. We also have a lot of great action with Sylvia and Justin. Justin, in terms of the two supporting casts here, Jess, he's just a complete non-entity in terms of a character and personality. He just seems like there so that we can torture him if we wanted to raise the stakes, if that makes any sense. Like, just have him panicking. It's like, oh no, it's gonna get us, it's gonna happen. Like they needed like it's not really a red shirt because he doesn't die, but he gets injured and he starts panicking and starts believing all these ghosts and the paranormal. And the Doctor and Donna have to basically keep up this that they're a couple and stuff. And Justin is slowly kind of working out because because Wilfred and Sylvia are not talking to the Doctor as if he is their son-in-law, but it's a very dangerous figure. As Sylvia is like, I should have kept my daughter away from this man and stuff like that. And Wilfred even makes this comment. It's like, it's not too late to turn back now, which kind of sounds like a threat for people who don't know the Doctor. And there's this, you kind of get the feeling that there's this awkward relationship between Donna's family and the Doctor, which is in the television story, but this kind of focuses on it, and it's a really great example of that. Now, you might have noticed that we've been talking for a while. We haven't even bring up a monster in this. To get to the nearer end of the story, you might be disappointed to learn there is no monster, there is no creature. The story kind of ends on a very weird twist in which Donna, Doctor, Sylvia and Moffat basically revealed that the reason they asked this casting to investigate this house, the reason why they brought them here, is actually because the house, in some way, shape or form, is linked to Justin. Justin was actually, turns out to be not a school friend of Donna's, but someone that knew Donna as a kid. And he had some sort of connection with the corpse. The corpse are an alien intelligence that came to Earth during the medieval times, came in here for peace. And because it was, they arrived in a time of supernatural, that they were basically put to a slow death, and their consciousness kind of eroded, took in thousands of years, and kind of remedied to turn into this horror, like a ghost story, essentially, keeping the essence alive. And somehow it's connected to Justin, and it's basically revealed that all the weird, strange happenings that he has witnessed through his entire life, and the thing that kind of pushing him to try and find those ghosts and monsters is because of this. And they needed to bring him here so they can close this energy loop so that he can basically be free of it. And not only that, everyone else who enters this building can be freed. And there's this... and it seems like there should have been a character arc there, that this character should be learning something. But I feel like nothing really gets resolved in it. He discovers that the spooky things that happen to him because they're aliens. They kind of burn the house down after, as a kind of symbolic of him giving up thing. But it was never like, you never get the feeling, it comes up as a twist. It's a really weak twist because it means that we have to the story has to just kind of abruptly tell us all this, and looking back into the narrative, it doesn't really work because as a character, Justin never showed any character traits that he knew this place, or at least not in a way this story intended, and it just comes off as a kind of a strange, abrupt ending to this narrative. And so that's No Place. It's a very short concept story. It's 60 minutes long, which is your average length of a New Who episode. So there you go. Do I recommend this story? Because as you can probably tell, I've told that there's a lot of great stuff, but there's also some bits I'm not keen on, and they seem to be vital to the story. Not only do I suggest this, I think this is actually a great start to the 10th Doctor Big Finish. The fact, just the entire concept means that the story is mainly focused on our main characters in a way where we have a very limited secondary cast, and we spend a lot of time with our 4 protagonists. And the fact that we bring 2 characters from the series, 2 side characters, into this, and we have all of those emotional beats, just means that this is just a really easy story that you can connect with the television series. And the story is great as well. It's just when it deals with the side characters, with Justin and Jess, which again, Justin Jess in an audio drama, I think that's kind of a great stupid idea to have 2 names so similar. They're not really that interesting, they're kind of dull, but they lead into a lot of humorous moments with our characters, where they're trying to have to keep up this farade that the Doctor is Donna's husband, and that they're this happy married couple. And if the story is mainly centered around our main 4 cast, I would say if you like these characters, which I know a lot of people do, I know that this is a lot of people's favourite TARDIS team, the Doctor, the 10th Doctor and Donna, I'd say this is actually a great place to start your Big Finish collection. I highly recommend it. However, if you're somebody who is not interested in these characters, if you are not someone who is a fan of the 10th Doctor and Donna, I doubt this story will change your mind. It seems like a story which was clearly fitted for people trying to get into Big Finish, which is weird because this is volume 3 of the 10th Doctor, the second volume with Donna and the Doctor, this TARDIS team. So that's kind of strange that I would recommend. I believe this is the 3rd story in volume 3. It's strange that I would recommend this like that, but it's true. It's a great way. It's a great way to be introduced to the 10th Doctor in audio drama. So I highly recommend you try it out. It feels really short. It feels a lot shorter than it is, and it's just a lot. It's just a lot of fun. It's not too deep. It's not too dark. It's just a lot of fun, and you get a lot of great moments with our main characters. So there you go. That's Doctor Who and No Place. So join me next time where Gwen, she learns stuff about Torchwood that she wished she never learned. So join me next time for Drift, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra. Adrift. I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra.